2016, in Paris.
Paris.
2:30 a.m. 5 men wearing fake police uniforms and ski masks rush into a hotel. One of them points a gun at the right concierge. He then screams something in French.
Elle est où, la meuf du rappeur?
Where is the rapper's wife? Terrified, the concierge leads them to the apartment.
Okay.
Behind the door, Kim Kardashian is alone, lying on her bed wearing just a robe. She's scrolling through her phone, just minutes away from falling asleep. She has no idea that from the exact moment the concierge opens the door, she is about to live through the most terrifying minutes of her life. It's September 28th, 2016. Above the
fuck didn't she
Atlantic,
have security?
private jet slices through the sky, heading straight for Paris. Inside, Kim Kardashian with her personal assistant and her bodyguard. Her husband at the time, Kanye West, isn't with her, since he's in the middle of his St. Pablo tour, performing across the US. Kim couldn't wait for Kanye to finish the tour. Fashion Week was just around the corner, and the entire city was waiting for her. At 10:40 a.m., she arrived at Paris-Le Bourget Airport, a few miles outside of the city. Soon, she will be joined by her sisters Courtney and Kendall, who are flying in separately. For Kim, Paris had become more than just a city. It was her escape. But still, she made sure her millions of followers saw it all. That week, she was everywhere. She attended Givenchy, sat front row at Off-White, and was photographed arriving at Azzedine Alaya's private dinner. Each appearance made headlines. Cameras followed her from show to show, and fans watched her movements like episodes of a live show. It was life some people could only dream of, and Kim was living it in front of the world. But all that sharing came with a cost. It had already begun on her very first day in Paris when a well-known prankster named Vitaly ran up and tried to grab her. To his followers, it was just a prank. But to Kim,
The prankster?
it wasn't funny. It was a warning she didn't see at the time. A sign of how easily strangers could get close. Still, she kept posting, day and night. Even in her private suite in Hotel de Portales, the camera never really turned off. The hotel is known in celebrity circles as the No Address Hotel, a hidden luxury residence shielded behind heavy black gates in one of the most exclusive corners of central Paris, just minutes from the Champs-Élysées. And to make it feel even more private, there wasn't even a lobby, just a narrow alley, a keypad, and a concierge at the desk. It was perfect for famous people who wanted to stay hidden. Beyoncé, Madonna, Leonardo DiCaprio, they'd all stayed there before. Kanye even owned one of the apartments for years. He and Kim stayed there during their wedding trip. The building itself is a 19th century Paris mansion once owned by royalty, so it used to be a private house. But in 2004, it was sold for $38 million to a French billionaire. He turned it into a fancy hotel with 2 high-end rooms and 9 luxurious suites. And one of those was booked by Kim. She stayed in the most expensive suite, costing up to $16,800 per night.
What the fuck?
It was luxurious, with thin walls, a place designed for privacy. But that also meant minimal staff, no cameras in the hallways, and no real protection once you were inside.
That's the dumbest shit ever.
Staying that hidden came with risks. Just days before Kim flew to Paris, Kanye surprised her with a second engagement ring, a massive $4 million diamond. During her stay, she proudly showed it off in photos.
Ooh,
Millions of fans
wait,
admired
run
it,
that shit
but
back. Hold
somewhere,
on.
A massive $4 million diamond.
Damn.
During her stay, she proudly showed it off
Ooh,
in
that
photos.
motherfucker
Millions of fans
nasty.
admired it, but somewhere, others were paying close attention. Across Paris, a few of them immediately recognized the opportunity. They didn't see a celebrity, they saw a target. That's when they made the plan. It's a few days before Fashion Week. Inside a quiet Parisian bar, hidden from the noise of the city, a small group of men sits together. Although the Fashion Week is their main talking subject, they're not here to talk fashion. Their lives run on different rules, far from catwalks and flashing cameras. These men weren't from rich areas. They came from the banlieues, where reputation is the main currency. Most tourists never see this side of Paris, but in these neighborhoods, a different kind of network thrived. These men weren't stylists or celebrities. They were criminals, and they were planning something for Fashion Week. But this wouldn't be just another robbery, because this job would require more than brute force. It would need information. So after digging online, they found their target, Kanye's wife. That's how they knew her, not as a celebrity, but as the woman married to a man they recognized. They watched Kim's posts and mapped her movements. They confirmed she had no bodyguard on certain nights. They studied the hotel layout, the street, the police patrol timing. They prepared everything,
fuck is that?
down to the last detail. Police vests to command authority, fake badges to look official, and a handgun to make people obey. Just enough fear to keep things quiet. By the night of October 2nd, the plan was locked. The 5 men entered the hotel. 2 waited down by the entrance courtyard, 2 headed upstairs, and 1 outside on the lookout. Each had a role. No one spoke more than they had to, and just after 2:30 a.m., they stood in front of the apartment door. No alarms, no resistance, just a quiet hallway, and a woman inside who had no idea what was coming. Till this moment, the night had been quiet, almost peaceful. After the 3 sisters attended a private dinner at the Azadine Alea showroom around 9:45 p.m., Courtney and Kendall continued their night at the nightclub L'Arc. Kim went back to the hotel, so she had her bodyguard sent to watch over her siblings while she stayed behind in the suite. Around 1 a.m., she arrived back at the hotel. In her suite, she removed her makeup, took a quick shower, put on a robe, and settled in for the night. The streets outside were silent. The cameras, for once, weren't flashing. But down below, something had already gone terribly wrong. It's when it all changes. At 2:18 a.m., street cameras spotted 3 men cycling toward the hotel, dressed as police officers. Behind them, 2 more approached on foot. By this hour, the hotel's main door was locked, so to get in, you needed a code, or someone inside had to buzz you in. When the group of 5 stood at the door, the concierge opened it without hesitation, thinking they were police. The break-in had begun, and at exactly 2:32 a.m., Kim's door burst open. 2 masked men stormed in, dragging the hotel receptionist, bound, gagged, and terrified. Kim froze. At first, she thought it was a prank. Maybe Vitaly again, the prankster from earlier that week. But then she saw the gun. She called her bodyguard in a panic, but before the call could go through, one of the men snatched the phone away. The men shouted in French.
À terre!
She couldn't understand it, but she knew she had to go on the floor. They pulled her hands behind her back and tied her wrists with zip ties. One of them pulled a roll of duct tape from the duffel bag. He grabbed her and pulled her close. Her robe loosened, falling open. She had nothing underneath. The man grabbing her is Eomar Eid Kedik, 60 years old.
Damn!
60-year-old man.
What the
He was
fuck?
boss, known on the streets as Old Omar. He had spent decades in the criminal underworld.
It's
Armed
old
robberies,
ass.
high-end thefts, and prison time. By
Is that
60,
him or is that just
he
me?
wasn't just a thief. He was a legend among the old-school Parisian crews. And now, he was inside Kim's suite, pulling off the biggest celebrity heist of the decade. The second man inside the suite was Didier Debriuc. They called him Blue Eyes. Not because he was charming, but because he stood out. At the time of the robbery, he was also 60 years old. Like Eomar, he wasn't new to this. Didier didn't say much because he didn't need to. He was there just to do the job and vanish. For a moment, she thought Eomar was going to violate her. But then, he tied her legs together. She was gagged and dragged towards the marble bathroom. The concierge, already tied up, lay nearby. The men worked quickly like they had rehearsed it a dozen times. Didier stood over her, waving the gun. With a gun pointed at her, she thought she was about to die. At the same time, Eomar began searching the room. He was calm and focused. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Kim was on the floor, her heart pounding in her chest, unable to move. Eomar came close to her. He didn't yell, he whispered,
La bague.
meaning the ring. She shook her head, not because she was refusing, but because she didn't understand what he meant. He pulled at her wrist. The massive diamond caught the light. They snatched her engagement ring and they went down the hallway to look for more jewelry. Necklaces, rings, earrings, gold, diamonds, all gone in minutes. And the whole time, Kim was silent. She was thinking of her children. Maybe she wasn't going to make it. But here's where things get interesting. Kim wasn't actually alone in her suite. Her friend and stylist, Simone, was there too, asleep downstairs. She had no idea what was happening above her.
What
until she
the
woke up from
fuck?
Kim screaming. She immediately knew something bad was happening, so she ran into the bathroom and locked the door. From inside, she grabbed her phone and called the bodyguard, who was at the nightclub with Courtney and Kendall. After the call, he rushed back to the hotel as fast as he could. Around the same time, the two robbers started to panic. One of the men downstairs had warned them. The police were on their way. That man was Eunice Abbas.
How the fuck did he
At
know?
62 years old, he was the oldest of the crew. But he just played a supporting role, helping restrain the concierge and keep the building quiet. So the five got what they came for and then left. Just before disappearing into the Paris night, they locked Kim up in the bathroom, and then they vanished on bicycles.
A bunch of fucking 60-year-olds pulled this off?
A surprisingly smart way to slip under the radar. No one suspects a man on a bicycle at 3 a.m., because in Paris, bikes are everywhere. They blended in and were gone almost as quickly as they had arrived. By the time the bodyguard finally got there, the robbers were already gone. For a moment, it seemed like they'd pulled off the perfect crime. But days later, one of the robbers made a mistake that changed everything. We'll get to that. Right now, Kim was still locked in the bathroom, tied up and alone, until her friend Simone found her and helped her to get free. Once untied, they called the police. At first, the police chief didn't know who Kim Kardashian was. That's why he asked the officer next to him. He had no clue either, so he Googled her. Right away, he saw her millions of followers. That's when they realized she was a famous American reality star.
What
Within
the
an hour,
fuck?
the story was global. At that exact moment, across the Atlantic, Kanye was performing live. After someone whispered the news to him on stage, he stopped the show immediately and prepared to fly straight to Paris. In the city, the police arrived in minutes. But Kim hesitated. The robbers had also been dressed as police officers. In that moment, she couldn't be sure if she was safe or still in danger. Still, the cops searched through the suite. They couldn't find any fingerprints because the robbers wore gloves. They also used burner phones, and the bikes they escaped on had been stolen earlier that week. It was clean and precise. It felt like something out of a movie. But not everything went perfectly.
Uh-oh,
As they
somebody
sped away
fucked
on
up.
bikes, one of them dropped Kim's platinum cross, worth around $31,000 onto the street.
How the fuck did
The
that
next
happen?
day, a passerby found it lying on the sidewalk. But the robbers probably didn't even care about dropping it. After all, here's the list of everything they got away with. Most of the jewelry probably ended up in Antwerp, Belgium, the diamond capital of the world. There, it was either sold off or melted down and transformed into brand new pieces. This made it impossible to track the jewels. But how about the robbers? Were they ever caught? In a single morning, it all came crashing down. But how did police find them? We'll come back to that.
That's
For
a good
now,
question.
let's first see how Kim was doing in these months. Just hours after the robbery, headlines across the globe screamed the news. It was the biggest robbery of an individual in France in over 20 years. This experience changed her forever. The same morning, Kim flew back to New York, covering her face under a black blanket as cameras followed every step. For the first time in her career, she went completely silent on social media. Friends said she barely spoke. She just stayed at home with her kids. But while Kim tried to heal, French police were closing in on the men who turned her world upside down. And soon, they'd make their move. In the first weeks, the trail was cold. Paris police had almost nothing. No fingerprints, no clear security footage, no reliable witnesses. But there was one crucial clue that robbers hadn't counted on. A small trace of DNA left on the plastic bindings used to tie Kim's wrists. But there was no match. At least, not yet. French police knew this wasn't the work of amateurs. The plan was too sharp, too clean. But slowly, they built a map. A perfect puzzle was starting to come together. What eventually followed was a coordinated series of raids across Paris. It's 6 a.m., January 9th, 2017, 3 months after the heist. In the suburbs just outside of Paris, police surrounded an apartment. They're about to strike. Inside, Younis Abbas, one of the 5 men who stormed the hotel that night. He is still asleep. In seconds, the door bursts open. Officers rush inside, shouting commands. Months of thinking he'd gotten away shattered in one morning.
God is dumbass.
And he wasn't the only one. In one massive operation, police carried out raids all across Paris and its suburbs. 17 suspects were arrested at the exact same time.
Damn.
Among them, the 5 who broke into Kim's room, plus the team who helped make it all happen. One by one, the men behind the biggest celebrity heist in recent history are pulled from their beds. Kim was informed immediately. The arrests gave her some closure, but not peace. Because where is the jewelry? And what happens next for the men who pulled off the heist? On top of that, some even believe it was an inside job.
That's what I'm thinking.
They started pointing fingers at the concierge. Why did he open the door for strangers in the middle of the night? With the hotel's cameras mysteriously turned off that evening, no one could fully prove what happened. The police found this suspicious too, so they decided to bring him in. After hours of tough questioning and going 36 hours without sleep, he was finally let go.
Damn.
Another theory pointed at someone much closer than anyone expected, Kim's
Bodyguard?
own driver.
Oh.
He wasn't just any driver. He worked for the luxury limo service that handled all of Kim's movements in Paris. That night, he was the last person to drop her off, the last to see her before she went into the hotel. When police started making arrests, he was among the 17 suspects taken in. Was he involved? Did he tip off the robbers? Or was he just in the wrong place at the worst possible time? In court, the truth finally started to come out. But it didn't happen overnight. For years, the case moved slowly through the French legal system. Police had to connect clues from phone calls, street cameras, and tiny bits of DNA. It wasn't until April 2025, almost 9 years after the robbery, that the big trial finally began in Paris. 10 people were on trial. Among them were the 5 main robbers who broke into Kim's suite and others who helped plan or hide them. Because many were in their 60s and 70s, the French media called them the Grandpa Gang. Each suspect faced serious charges: armed robbery, kidnapping, and being part of a criminal group. 9 men and 1 woman were accused of carrying out or aiding the armed burglary of $10 million worth of jewelry. During the trial, Kim spoke in court. She shared how she thought she was going to die and begged for her life. Even inside the courtroom, the atmosphere felt surreal. The men on trial were older, gray-haired, some using canes. In French media, journalists joked that they looked more like grandfathers at a family lunch than dangerous criminals. Throughout all this, Kim remained strong but deeply affected. She talked about her children and how she kept replaying the moment in her mind, thinking she might never see them again. Her words left the courtroom silent. Even some of the robbers looked down at the floor. After this, each man gave his own version of the story. Some tried to act like they were small players who only did small tasks. Others completely denied any involvement, hoping to distance themselves from the violence. But evidence spoke louder. Wiretapped phone calls revealed them plotting how to move and sell the jewels.
Damn.
Nearby street cameras caught them cycling away into the night. And most crucial of all, DNA from the zip ties directly tied both Aomar and Younis to the crime. With that evidence, they had no choice but to confess. Aomar, the man believed to be the leader, even wrote Kim a letter during the trial to say sorry. But for Kim, it didn't help much because the fear would stay with her forever. In May 2025, the final decision came. 8 of the 10 were found guilty. The 5 main robbers got the heaviest sentences. Old Aomar, who is now deaf, was sentenced to 8 years in prison on Friday. The others got between 3 and 8 years. But in France, they could avoid going to prison if they stay out of trouble for a certain number of years, something that shocked many people. The trial closed one chapter, but many questions still hang in the air. Like, where did the rest of the jewels go? That's something we still don't know to this day.
Damn.
Since almost none of the stolen jewelry was ever found. So Kim's famous $4 million diamond ring is still missing. In the end, this heist wasn't just about money or jewels. It was a wake-up call about the real price of fame. It showed how a single social media post can turn a superstar into a target overnight. For Kim, it changed everything. She started traveling with stronger security, stopped showing expensive jewelry online, and even took a long break from social media, something no one ever expected from her. It made her rethink every detail of her public life, every post, every appearance. Even today, the experience still haunts her. If you want